Welcome to day one of the summit and our very first panel of the day, the production panel. My name is Meghna. I'm the marketing lead of SGDA and also the moderator for this panel. And yeah, I guess we can, a little bit about me for context. If you see me pinging all the time in the Discord or seeing any posts on social media, that's probably me. And I am a CMU grad student currently at the Entertainment Technology Center, where some of our panelists are from. And I also graduated from Ringgold College of Art and Design in game art. So I will stop talking about myself and let our panelists introduce ourselves, if anyone wants to go first.
I'll start. Oh, yeah. All right. So my name is Mitch Zaza. I graduated from Champlain College in Billington, Vermont in 2020, game production major. And right after that, I went to work for Sony Santa Monica on God of War Ragnarok for about 2.5 years as a production coordinator. And after that, I went to 1047 Games as the associate producer for the UI UX team.
I guess I'll go next. Hello everybody, my name is Xiao. I'm currently a producer at MegaCast Studios. It's a small, medium-sized studio based in Pittsburgh, PA. I came from a theater background. I graduated from University of Pittsburgh Theater Arts in 2020, and then I went to Carnegie Mellon University Entertainment Technology Center to pursue my game career. In While I was at CMU, I did an internship with the MSG Sphere in Las Vegas in their interactive team, and then after I graduated, I started working at MegaCast Studios. Yeah, that's about me.
All right, I guess I could go last. Hi everyone, my name is Shan. I'm classmate of Xiao. We both graduated 2023 from CMU ETC. Before that, I was at Mount Holyoke College. I was double majoring in computer science and interactive media, and later transitioned into game production. I previously had a fellowship with Shell Games, and then right now I'm working as a game production assistant at Niantic.
Awesome. So thank you guys for coming on and speaking to everyone. To start off with the first question, it's very similar to a question that someone sent in the Discord chat already about how do you define your role as a producer? What do you do on the day-to-day basis? What does a producer do even? Because I know a lot of people, it's very different from company to company. Zhao, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Yeah. So for me, being a producer is all about facilitating teamwork however you can. So that means communicating with different departments, prioritizing tasks, making sure the goals are aligned, planning sprints. And my current role as a producer also does a little bit of design and documentation. So I would say 30% of my work is like production work and 30% is like design related. Do you want me to go a little bit more into detail? I guess I'll talk about my day to day. So I think it's probably easier to talk about my work in like a span of a week. And what I do usually falls into three categories. The first one is a lot of communication, helping people to resolve issues, pointing people to the correct direction or like the person they need to talk to in order to get their task done. And then I also do a lot of syncs and meetings. There's like production team sync, design meetings, production and QA alignment, like stuff like that. And then I also do a lot of sprint planning, making sure that we're on track. So I'll start my day with like checking my DMs, see, since like I work in a global team, a lot of my teammates are like 12 hours away. So I'll see like what they send me overnight. Then I'll go to meetings if I have them. If I have some, then in between the meetings, I will see like what bugs we currently have left and like where we're at like in this sprint. And usually towards the end of the week, I will like try to like play our own game just to get a hold of it. So it's like that pretty much.
Does one of the other panelists want to go next?
Oh, sorry, Mitch. I thought I saw you trying to say something.
Oh,
Go first.
I was gonna say, yeah, Zhao did a great job of, kind of hitting all the points. And yeah, the biggest thing is just helping to unblock teammates as well. Just making sure if you're on a like engineering team, if they can't implement something because there's no design for it or the design is not kind of fleshed out, then just making sure that they have all the pieces that they need and making sure you're proactive in that kind of planning process for sprint planning and road mapping and all those things.
And then I could add a little bit, pretty much very similar to what Xiao is doing day to day. But I also help with live ops because we are a live game since last May. And then a little bit of live ops, a little bit of supporting our localization. And then if marketing needs me in any sort of way, I would go to marketing, help some film some videos, help organize a play testers. And yeah, pretty much covers it.
Awesome. Thank you for the answers. So the next question I do have, since you guys have all done mainly production in also not only in your career, but also a little bit in college, I did want to ask, how might someone coming right out of college tailor their resume and their portfolio production for a production role? What are the essential skills that an aspiring producer build? Especially since production is one of those roles where it's kind of hard to show on a resume. But yeah, if any of you guys want to start, or I can call someone out.
I guess I could start this time. One advice I always tell people who reach out to me is you read their job description and then copy exactly what they have there. Yeah, try to tailor your resume exactly to that job description, and then sooner or later you'll find out that most entry-level job descriptions are very similar. They just focus on communication, cross-disciplinary collaboration, time management, organization, those kind of things. And that is like once you've done that, I would like recommend going to their company's producers, reach out to those people and then check if um check what their job actually are and then what you're helping them do.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything that Shan said. And one of the biggest things, if you're early on in your college career, if you're a sophomore, junior, even look at those entry-level job descriptions for a producer and start building those skills up. So a lot of them are going to say Jira, Excel, sometimes Airtable, maybe. Depends on kind of the company and what software they're using. But like, look at what softwares they're calling out and definitely go on Udemy or YouTube and just try and follow a tutorial and make your own spreadsheets. And yeah, if you are able to make a portfolio for production, then definitely show those spreadsheets that you made, the roadmaps, and talk about the numbers aspect as well. If, the project you made in college was a semester long and, how did you break up all that work and things like that.
Yeah. So I agree with Mitch and Shan. And on top of that, I want to add, I think it's very important for the experience on your resume to be relevant. So that kind of goes back to reading the job description. But also like sometimes I see people put I don't know, like resident assistant at college, on their resume. Like I would say, yeah, that is a valuable experience, but like I don't know how much that would help you to like advance your role as a producer. I would say only put experience like that on your resume if you have a like really good reason for it. Um, and another advice I would give is to like just like write down the difficult decision that you and your team made while you are doing a student project, because that will come in handy when you go to these interviews. Like you can talk about the decision-making process, because that will be what you do when you be a producer. Um, and another thing is, I think you can try to learn another skill that's related to game development that's not necessarily production. Like say you can like learn Maya, learn a little bit of coding or design, because a lot of jobs nowadays are like they're recruiting for like an art producer, and they want the producer themselves to have a little bit of art experience. So I think that will, like you don't know when that will help you, but one day.
I can confirm it did help
Yeah.
me having an art background to go into production. So I think that's such good advice. Yeah. So the next question is a bit related to that one about, college students and developing the skills to go into production. What's the difference between working in a company environment versus in a university? What should students expect going into game production that's different from what they do in university? And how do you keep up with the changes?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the more broad, I guess, differences is just the scale of things. So in university, you're in teams of 4 to 5, maybe 10 at most. But then once you get into, depending on what kind of company you go to, like with Sony, there was a lot of people that you were working with. So the idea that you're just talking to more people on the team, more devs, and also more producers as well. So just learning how to communicate with other producers, work with them on their team's needs and things like that. And then yeah, the more people you have on a project, there's the more communication channels you're going to have. So just learning how to balance and spin all those plates at once and making sure that nothing falls behind. So yeah, how to keep up with the change is the best thing to do is just ask questions if you're not sure. Especially at any point in your career, coming right out of college or you've been in the industry for 10 plus years, asking questions and wanting to know more about the process and know more about how to do things is always going to be welcomed in any environment in game dev. And also just kind of reading up on the documentation regularly. Doesn't have to be every day, but even if it's just once a week, just making sure nothing changed. And if something did change, ask a question and things like that.
Yeah, I definitely think like asking questions is very important, because like you are not inventing wheels when you join a company. Like there are already like tools and like people that should set you up for success. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions. And another big difference that I observed going from like a student to industry is that like all of a sudden you have to learn a lot of new things that you don't do as a student, like porting, localization. You have to work with the QA team, and you have to think about how to like ship a game on different consoles. So it's hard to get those experience, but like the more like you can talk to the industry people, the better, or like maybe simply like read some articles online to get familiar with the terms. Um, and I would also say like when you work in the industry, you don't have like a deadline. Like the project isn't just going to be over when the semester is over. So a lot of times you have to like set your own milestone and like think about how long it's going to take to like complete this feature, and like when you need to submit something to stakeholder and like just keep those stuff in mind.
And then adding on to both of your comments, um, I guess I could start from where we came from. So our ETC program, in terms of setup, it already has cross-disciplinary teams. We have sound designer, game designer, artist, programmer, and producer, and even a sound design. Oh, right, I mentioned sound designer, game design, yeah. And then we also sometimes have clients, sometimes we don't have clients, and then they have already set up the semester to have like internal reviews, external reviews, play tests, and then we do have like a deadline to do the final presentation. That setup sometimes is very similar to the industry setup, at least my team. So my team is about 20 people core team, and then this year, since I joined in January, we shipped uh, a, uh, a mixed reality experience on Quest 3 within 3 months. That's like a very similar setup to grad school, and I was kind of surprised because that was a very quick start to end time. Um, and from that, we were practicing like a combination of agile and waterfall when we're in grad school because we have the 4 months period we have to work with, but we also have to be iterative and then get the best experience out. Um, um, I learned a new term called Scrumfall about 2 weeks ago. I learned Scrumfall, which is a combination of agile and then waterfall, and that is pretty useful. And then it is practiced in industry if you want to do very iterative work, but you also want to ship on a set deadline. And then I guess, yeah, very similar to your comments earlier. We grew in team size, but not that much. It tripled. It's still manageable. It's still easy to talk to people. And then we have we have different roles. We include senior people from producers, like we have tech lead, creative directors, art directors, and then a big leadership group over us. And then we also have a lot of different departments, including QA, as you mentioned, and then marketing, localization, data, people's team, IT team, and then executives. So those are the things we need to transition as a student to like full-time employee, but it's not that difficult.
Awesome. So since you mentioned agile and waterfall, the next question that I'm going to bring up is the tools that you use in production, since production's kind of a mix of spreadsheets, potentially Jira. But yeah. So what tools do you guys use in production, or maybe some core skills and traits that good producers have?
I guess I'll start. Mine is easy. So, in my team, like we mainly still use spreadsheets, and we also use it's like a bug tracking tool called Mantis. I think it's like open sourced. Um, I think it's important to like keep your data in one place that's like easy to track. Like if things gets a little bit of like everywhere, then like you don't know like what you don't know what you should look at. So that's the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Jira, Excel. I tried to use like OneNote and the Notepad for just taking notes and stuff. Um, and that works great. I use those as far as like to-do lists. I love just pen and paper. I've tried to do, digital to-do lists, but it just has not worked for me. It's just a lot more tactile for the pen and paper. And another, I think, tool to really learn is some form of version control, whether that's Perforce or anything like that, because sometimes you might have to use it in a production setting. Sometimes you might not have to. It really depends on the company how involved you're going to get, but just knowing that you'll be able to talk more with the developers and kind of understand just how to use it, and like if something does go wrong, you have sort of a sense of how it works and things like that.
And then adding on to that, we're definitely using Jira, and then we are using the Google Suite side of things instead of Microsoft. And then for the to-do list, Google has a to-do tool, so I use that, and then it shows up on my calendar. So when I'm not having meetings, I have those to-do tickets there. And then we also use Figma. Game designers use Figma, and then producers use Figma for a playtest. People just put sticky notes in for playtests. And then for version control, we use GitLab. In school, we use Perforce, but we don't really touch that. And then for localization tools, we use something called Crowdin. I can't really introduce much, but it's a localization tool where you upload your strings and then you get translated by our vendors. And then for retrospective in Shell Games, we use Trello, and then here was my team, and then Niantic, we use Parable. It's very similar, just different retrospective tools.
Awesome, thank you. I've definitely learned some new tools from each of you. So the next question is about a key trait of all producers, which is collaboration. And if the question is, if you worked on a project with more than one producer, how do you collaborate with the other producers?
I guess I could start. I work with two producers. I'd say one executive producer and then one producer who have about uh 5 years of experience. I can't really remember. But we work together. We have actually I worked with two executive producers. I help facilitate two teams, so that's why I have two EPs. How we divide responsibilities is pretty clear. So I am entry level, so I deal with day to day. I help with daily stand-ups, sprint planning, retrospective, and then organize playtests. And then senior producers would help with strategy. They talk to clients, they deal with contracts, and then they help with game direction with our creative directors. So it is pretty separate. And then I'm able to help with the other side from time to time and then learn more about it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Shannon on like it's very important to like split responsibilities when you work in a team of producers. Because often you find that like say like having 3 people to manage 30 people to be like responsible for a 30 people team is way harder than having like each producer to lead a sub team of 10 because often people don't want to step on each other's toes. So it's like important to make the responsibility clear and like take ownership. It is also like if you don't do that, the devs will also have a hard time to know who they should communicate with when they encounter an issue. And in my company, the roles between senior and junior producers are, very similar to Shan's. We have senior communicate with stakeholders, just taking like a more zoomed out look of the project, and the junior producers is responsible for the sub teams, like you're leading our team or like a team of devs and stuff like that.
Yeah, to just add on, yeah, the for collaboration with the producers, usually it's like a weekly meeting that we have, just to kind of talk about anything that's going on. There's also, whether it's on Slack or Teams, kind of a group message between all the producers, just saying like, hey, I'm going to be out this day. Can someone cover this? Or anything pops up, talk to them kind of pretty quickly. And then also for like sprint planning or anything like that, once you have the schedule, you're always talking to them about what their teams are working on, what you can do to support them, and things like that. And then yeah, as far as hierarchy goes, same kind of deal where yeah, the senior producer is dealing more with high level strategy kind of things, and the more junior mid level producers are kind of doing the stand ups and meeting notes and action items and things like that.
And then just to follow up on Xiao's point, you mentioned the number 10. I just want to call out, I've not like at least once heard the ratio, producer to dev ratio is 1 to 10. It's like a good ratio.
Yeah, it's like if it gets more than 10, it's gonna be hard to manage or something like that.
Awesome. Thank you guys. So the next question, which will probably be maybe our second to last question, is what kind of problems do you run into at work? Where I think producers are kind of known for sort of like stopping fires before they begin, but are there any common issues that you run into in your line of work?
Oh,
Go
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So because I cannot mention any details of any of my projects, I'm gonna go. So we manage dependencies, and then if one person don't deliver a thing, we like the second thing couldn't happen. So that's one risk management, and then tracking dependencies, and then we also like we're producing games, and the games have to be fun to play. And then if it's not fun, and then people are spending a lot of resources and energies into it, like producers and of course game designers have to call that out. If it's not fun, we have to think about this again and then see if we need to reiterate our strategies. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, the fun part is definitely like um it's hard to manage, I would say, because like in my studio we can do play test, but it's usually internal because it's you can't like invite it's hard to invite people outside to like play test your NDA project. So like you have to gauge it yourself. Um and on top of that, sometimes as a producer, you have to start conversation on some difficult decisions. Like when you feel like something a feature is gonna take too long, that is gonna like cause a project to delay. Like you have to sometimes start those conversation. Yeah.
And sometimes there's also like the interpersonal conflicts that arise, whether it's two teammates working with each other that haven't gotten along, or something has come up and they've gotten frustrated with each other, or it can be just on an individual basis of them just not having a lot of motivation, or just not being able to complete work for some reason. And as the producer, you will be able to see that maybe a little bit before anybody else, just tracking their tasks and seeing how that's coming along. So yeah, interpersonal stuff is definitely something to look out for, and to just be top of mind whenever you're on a team as well.
Okay, awesome. So I'll go into probably one more question before we get into the audience questions because they are a good amount of them. But is there any advice that you would like to share for students potentially looking to be in the field? Anything you want to advise that they welcome as like something of being a part of producing, or something that you think that they should avoid when trying to get into the production field, whether that be in the market or skills in general. Let me know if you need to clarify. That was a bit of a word scramble.
I guess one of my biggest pieces of advice, and I didn't take this advice, so I hope someone does, but is to do a lot of game jams in college, especially as a producer, because as Zhao was saying, it's important to know at least a little bit of, I don't want to say a little bit of everything, but if you know a little bit of programming, if you just understand how that is, and same with the art, and how all those things come together. And because of the producer, we're kind of the trying to get all these puzzle pieces to come in at the right time, and on time as well. So it's a lot of coordinating. And if you know a little bit about everything kind of through game jams, that just gives you a small sneak peek on what to do. And I've done game jams after college, but I wish I'd done them in college to have that experience. And then I guess something to avoid would be just kind of following blindly to things. If someone tells you to do something, definitely do it and do it well. But if you see that you can propose something that might make the process a little bit easier, don't be afraid to speak up and don't be afraid to say something just because you think you're new and oh, they've been around for 10 years, 20 years, or they know what they're doing because they've been in the industry for a while and I'm not sure. Your perspective does matter. So even if you bring the point up to somebody and it doesn't get implemented or anything like that, that's fine. At least you spoke up. At least you had the confidence to say something and provide a solution. So I guess my last piece of advice is if you see a problem, always come up with a solution to tell somebody. Don't just tell someone, hey, there's a problem. Come with a solution to try and help them move that problem along.
And to add to that, I have a couple of points. One comment is I want to recognize how tough this time period is. We have all seen how the layoffs has been, and then I want to recommend two resources. One is Amir's. Can't remember his last name, but he's very active on LinkedIn, and he has his own Discord. AMIR. He has a whole website with all the mentors, like people who want to help people to find jobs, and then you can just go ahead and reach out to them. And then another resource is called Game Production Community. That is also a Discord. So other than that, we have LinkedIn where you can just code message people and then reach out and then ask. I would definitely recommend you checking if this is really what you want to do because production, some people have the misconception that you control the whole game. You tell people what to do. That is not true unless you found your own indie company. Um, production involves a lot of talking, even though it doesn't have to be like verbal talking. You just be typing a lot of Slack messages. It has a lot of talking, scheduling, and then once you go to senior levels, it has a lot of staffing and then getting funding. If you don't get funding, your game is gonna like crash. The whole team is gonna fall apart. That is a very stressful thing to be responsible for. And then not to do I would ask people to avoid like micromanaging and then spending a lot of time in Jira writing tasks. I've heard stories where people like spend the whole day writing Jira tasks, which is not definitely not worth your time doing that. People can write their own Jira tasks and then manage that. And then other things is that yeah, it's just a follow up to Mitch your point, learn a little bit of everything. I definitely recommend that. So you speak their languages and then at least understand what is going on. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Um, Definitely agree with Shannon and Mitch. And on top of that, I think just don't be afraid to like reach out to people. I think I had a really hard time and I'm probably still having a hard time like messaging strangers. Like I would like read my message 10 times before I send it because I just get like super anxious. But like it's okay. Like I just want everybody to know that like happens to everyone and it's okay. Um and just like ask your alumni about the company that they are working for and how they got there. Um and I also like agree with Shan on like being a producer is not like you're not the like executive of the project. You're there to like help people. I think it's important to be passionate about the project that you're working on. But like at the end of the day, it's also like your job to like making sure that like the project itself is okay and it's like on track and all that stuff. And it's important to like keep work-life balance.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for the advice. So now we are transitioning into audience questions. So if you are currently in the stream and you have a question, feel free to leave it in Twitch chat. I'll be starting off with the Discord since there are a couple of questions already. So one of the big questions that is brought up by Peter from SFSU, what does pre-production often look like for your respective teams? You don't have to go into detail because I know there is some like NDA stuff, but what does it look like since you guys work on very different types of teams?
I guess I could start. Pre-production, let's see. So in my current team, pre-production is a lot of brainstorming. Like we don't know what's the next thing, and then we gather around and then talk about all of our ideas. Some ideas might be very random, but we accept that in that particular meeting, and then we practice an improv skill called yes and where you just follow along other people's points. You don't like reject it on the spot. You don't really have to say yes and every time, but it's just like a good practice that way. And then once we have like one or two ideas that we feel we might be able to try this, we try it. We spend a little bit of engineering resources and then design resources to it. If it turns out to be fun, great. If it doesn't, we move on to the next idea. This is like we're also practicing fail fast, so we don't really take it like personally or anything, but it helps us move fast and then get our ideas out.
So I didn't join this project during the like pre-production phase, but I think we still like practice some stuff that Shan mentioned, like fail fast, like make a test case of something if you are considering it into making like a bigger scale of that, like make it small at first and see if it works, and use a cheap method if you just want to say, hey, I just want to like take a look of this. And I say just like draw references from everything, like movies, other games, music, stuff like that. And I think yes and is definitely important because like every game or every product probably has its own like merits and flaws. So like you can always say like yes, but like I think it's more important to like recognize the good part of something when you're doing pre-production.
Yeah, I'm gonna double down on the look at the inspiration aspect. It's as important it is, to look at games, as Zhao said, movies, music. It's equally imperative, if not more important, to look outside of games for inspiration because it might give a new spin on things and things like that. And yeah, the pre-production aspect is kind of what both Shannon and Zhao was just saying. It's the planning aspect. It's having an idea of, okay, I want to do this thing. I want to do time travel, or I want to do this. What resources do we have to do it? Can we make something quick to kind of get that up and running? And just making sure that you have a good foundation set before you actually go into production, because then if you have these milestone goals, then you have to, oftentimes it's said like you're building the plane as you're flying. And you want to try and limit that as much as you can. Game development stuff is always going to come up, stuff is always going to be on fire. But if you can kind of mitigate that in the beginning of pre-production with some kind of foundational work, like engineering, like the minimum viable product, just making those quick, that's an important thing.
Awesome. Thank you guys. And yeah, I definitely agree. It's definitely great to get more inspiration outside of just games because all inspirations come from everywhere. All right, cool. Our next question is kind of related to um, sprints as a whole. Are sprints in your respective disciplines like milestones or subtasks within each with each of them, if that makes sense?
Sorry, can you clarify the second part that you just
Yeah.
said?
So I believe it's referring to so sprints as a whole are program part of production. So are they like milestones where you have to like build, you have one big goal, but you don't really have tasks to kind of go through it, or you're kind of just going through it out like without the subtasks? And then I believe, or is it more so like you have small like little points to go on that you have to meet within each sprint? I don't know if that makes sense. If the person in the Twitch chat wants to clarify, feel free.
Yeah, I'll start off. I've seen it a few different ways, where there is like a milestone goal that you have. Let's get X working, and then you have, say, if the milestone is like, I don't know, a month long or 3 months long, then you make those sprints, whatever it is, 2 weeks, a month, a week, whatever the studio deems. Um, but yeah, there's both ways where I've seen it to the milestone broken up by sprints, or you just have these sprints that lead to something bigger way down the line. Um, yeah.
I guess from my experience, we do have like a set deadline that we have to ship. Like that's kind of decided at the very start of the project. So every sprint have to contribute to that ship date. So we do biweekly sprints, and then before the sprint planning, we have something called pre-sprint planning. That's just a name where all the directors or like game leads come together and then talk about um, our goals for this sprint. And then the goals also have to contribute to the closest milestone. And then we would list all of our tasks in that pre-planning meeting. It would be very specific to each person. And then we go on to the team and then see if they have questions about these tasks and then if they're okay with their workload or stuff. But I've also seen um my other team doesn't do it like this. We don't do sprints. All of our Jira tickets move like in Kanban mode. We don't have like sprint 1 to 3. They just move from to do to in progress and then done. And then it stays in that board until it's um done for the feature. And then if we don't have like specific tasks from producers, they would discuss with their managers or their like design lead and tech lead um, in another meeting. Like we don't decide that. So there are two different ways.
Um, I'd say for my current role, we work mostly in sprints, and we also have like important milestones, um like we want to like show a build to some stakeholder by this date, and then um you just decide like what needs to go into that build, and then like just like bring the task down from there. A lot of time like it works like backwards, like you know the date, you know that you know what you know when you're delivering, and then you have to count, oh, for it to deliver on this date, we need like 2 weeks to do this. We need another 2 weeks to do that. Um, and then like that's like when you can think about like your scope and everything.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So just to check in on time, Jason, I believe we have 15 minutes left. Sorry if you're off stream, but Okay, cool. Yeah, since we have a break, we can go a little bit further towards the end time. So I think we have enough time for two more questions. So the next question is sort of related to that first one of how detailed does a plan for a project have to be that the goals of the other decision makers align with the developers themselves. Like for example, like executives versus the developer level. Let me know if you want me to clarify.
I guess I could start. To answer that question, some context is that Niantic is about 700 people. I can't remember the exact number, but we are a big company. But my team, you heard, our core team is like 20 people. So we're like a startup in the big company. Um, our team has game reviews where we align goals with executives. But other than that, we don't have to talk to them daily. And then we don't have to like yeah, there's no micromanagement. So as long as the game direction aligns with what everybody thinks we're producing, it is all good. Yeah, that's how I'm gonna put it.
Um, for me, like I think when you're like communicating with the executives, like it's important to get estimates of like roughly when a feature can be complete from like other like team leads. For example, like if I don't know, you want to like request some new art, you probably want to ask the art lead to like estimate how this, if it's like a big piece, like you want to ask how when is this going to be done? How long does it take? And then that way um when your manager or the executives tells you, hey, like we need this, we need to like submit a build or something like that, you can tell them, hey, like actually it takes like this amount of time to finish this. Just like to get um a realistic understanding of things. I think that's like very important. Yeah.
Yeah, working with like if you're talking with developer to developer, producer producer, the more detailed you can get, I'd say, the better, because some things can get lost in the nuance, where if you just say one thing, it could be interpreted as something else. But yeah, plan wise, I think we always for 1047, we know we'd have the executives kind of make just a very high level goal list of, hey, we want to see these things in this milestone. We're like, okay. And then I brought that back to my lead and said, okay, well, what specifically does this mean for us? And what specifically do we need from the other teams? So yeah, I'd say, and whenever you're talking to the executives, if you can give them like a higher level either dashboard or just some kind of Excel so they can look at a high level and say, oh, okay, great. This is percent like X% done or something like that. You want to try and avoid being as detailed as you can with them, but give them a high level. Um, so yeah.
Awesome, thank you. So we got about 10 minutes left, but I think I'm gonna go ahead with our last question, which is kind of more of a fun one from our webmaster Anuj, if you're watching the stream, he's already been on the first showcase section. So Anuj asks, what is your favorite part of being a producer?
I'd say for me, it's kind of, as I alluded to earlier, the puzzle aspect and strategy aspect of things, where there's a goal to have a high level feature to be done, whether that's item pickup or whatever. And I love just going in and helping to break down that, daunting item pickup task to all the specifics per each team and just helping to get tasks and making sure that people are on the same page. So I love breaking those larger tasks down into smaller tasks and helping to bring clarity to all the people involved that are making it, who to talk to in case they run into an issue or things like that. So yeah, the puzzle aspect and kind of the strategy of how it all gets done.
I definitely like find that to be like really, it's kind of rewarding because it's like you helped. But also like seeing a project grow from like a prototype to like a game, like an actual game. Um, and another aspect of that is like you build camaraderie with your teammates, um, and just like the feeling of, hey, we're doing this thing, we're making a thing. Like
And then,
celebrate the
oh, go
little
ahead.
suc oh sorry. I was
Oh, go
just
ahead.
say like celebrate the little success that you do. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I feel like working closely with small teams, you get to see everybody, even if it's like just on Zoom, you see everybody's faces, and then we have like a daily shout out, where we just cheer, um, each other up. Like engineers shout out to artists, artists shout out to other artists. Like we have a like very supportive team, where we get to be a part of, and then we are also like Niantic is a very AR company. So we build a lot of AR experiences. And then recently we released mixed reality experiences. So we're like on the front line of those things. And then I'm very glad to be part of that as well.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. It's great to hear the different things that you guys love about being producers. So we do still have 9 minutes, so I can go through one more question if you guys are okay with it. Since we did miss a little bit for just in case time is of the essence, but since we have a break right after this, it's not as strict of a time. So I guess the last question is what does it take to pitch an idea to executives or shareholders in order to convince them to allocate funds or potentially like staff for a project, which is, I believe, one of the kind of the big things that producers do is sort of on an executive level is to um, be able to get staff or be able to get like certain people on a project.
I can go first with some of the experiences that I've had with trying to get more resources, whether within the company or trying to determine, hey, do we need to hire more people to get this thing done? A lot of it comes down to making sure that you have a kind of high level roadmap of all the things that you're going to work on for your team. So making sure that from whatever point you are right now to theoretically whenever you ship the game, if you have some sort of idea of this feature is going to take this amount of time, this feature is going to take this amount of time, that's not going to be exact. Those estimates are going to shift and grow and shrink. But the first step is to having that data available to you. So then you can say, okay, well, this feature is going to take, 2 months to make, and we have 3 engineers. But if we add just another engineer, we can cut that down we can save 2 weeks of time or something along those lines. So making sure you have that data available, whether you created it yourself or you're getting that from somebody else that you inherited a team from, it's super important.
So so I personally haven't pitched like a game to the executives, but I've definitely like pitched like features or like help to like to realize a feature. I think it's very important to show the executives like why this can be done with the time you have. And like say if you want to pitch something that involves like 10 characters from Marvel. Like that's probably going to cost a lot of money. But if you say, hey, I want to pitch this like small, I don't know, roguelike game, like and I need like a team of, I don't know, 5 or 10 or something, and you show like how you think it can be achieved, you probably have a good chance.
Yeah, and then to add to that, we can like the executives, um they could be your company's executives, and then also if you're talking with a client, say Marvel, if you're talking with any client, you have to talk. Like they have to talk, their legal team have to talk, business development people have to talk, like they have to come up with a contract. It's not as easy as like you pitch something, and then one person approves it like involves a whole group of people that need to make this decision. Um, I guess I am like not actively participating in the pitching, but I am like sitting there and observing like how the pitch happens within our company. It mostly like our executive producers do the talk. And then usually before they do the whole talk to leadership team, they have already spoke individually to those attendees to make sure we're aligned. There's not really anything confusing. If you're confusing, if something's confusing, please let me know. And then so there's like a whole lot of small talks that already happened before the pitch to make sure this pitch like goes as smoothly as possible.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys so much. So I think that will be our last question since it is 12:56 here. So I think we will end off with the production panel, but thank you to Mitch, Zhao, and Shan for sharing their time and giving us such great advice on production. Up next is our break. So go and eat lunch. And then after that it will be, I believe, student showcase section B. So we'll see you guys later.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank